Alright, hey everybody, my name is Kieran and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about confidence and how to use a spiritual perspective to change your perception of yourself and others in a way that inspires confidence within yourself. If I move around a lot, it's because I'm sitting on a rock and its sharp point is jutting into my ass, so it's going to be a very uncomfortable session, hopefully just for me though, not for everybody watching. Anyway, I have 5 main points. And the first one I want to talk about is the idea of separation. And the first key probably to stop thinking of yourself in a way that doesn't allow yourself to have any idea of self-worth, or that you might be shy or weak or something like that, is this idea of separation, that you are different, that there's an us versus them mentality. But when you realize that everybody is from or made up of the same energy, that we're all the same, that we're all part of the universe, that we're all soul embodying a human experience, then you actually start to see that there isn't really that much different between you and the person next to you, between your neighbor. And we even see this with people that we're close to. With people that we're close that we know, we start to become more comfortable. But in an idea, you can actually be close to everybody. It's that same idea. Not that you ever will be. You wouldn't want to be, of course. There's lots of people I don't want to be close to. But the point is that there is no real difference. The only difference between you and anybody else in this planet is how we see ourselves, which is basically the ego. The ego will convince ourselves that we're better or worse off than the person next to us, that this person, that whatever it is that we're exactly afraid of. If you're afraid of public speaking, doing a class presentation, that's always something that's extremely scary. For instance, when I was in 8th grade, I tried to do a class presentation, and it went so horribly bad, my eyes rolled back into my head, and everybody called me brain control for 3 weeks. So that was fun. But little did they know, I just did it on purpose, so I didn't have to do the presentation. Which isn't true, obviously. I pussied out completely. But still, I wish I would have said that back then, but I didn't. Anyway, so when you get rid of this idea of separation, you start to see that there is no real difference between anybody else, and that their fears are still, your fears. Because everybody really does come from a place of some sort of wounding. And so when you do a presentation, for example, like I said, it's kind of, you're the only one that's really judging yourself, because you're having the hypothetical conversation inside your head that there's something wrong with you, that there's something different. You're automatically assuming that everybody else is judging you based on how you are seeing yourself in that moment, or how you see yourself deep down on a subconscious level. But that idea doesn't really exist. It's all in your head. And when you start to think that, or understand that everybody is the same base, the same energy, they're still a soul, they're all part of the same shit, who haven't you seen fall down and trip? Everybody trips, and that's the point. There is no separation. Everybody is the same. And you don't have to care because of that. You really don't have to care. Anyway, number 2 is flip the situation and happen to it, not let it happen to you. And I'll give you a great example about this. The other day, I had a job interview, and I was nervous before I went in, like I am on all job interviews, or talking to women, any of them. Anyway, so I had the opportunity, basically, to take a moment and to collect myself. I managed to think, hey, wouldn't this be a little bit easier if I took a deep breath or something like that? And the idea occurred to me that I shouldn't let whatever is happening to me affect the way that I feel, either about myself or the situation. So what I did basically was I treated the interview like he was not interviewing me, but that I was interviewing him or his company. So I immediately flipped the situation, and as soon as I had that perspective flip, and it was even just small, subtle things, it started to play out a lot easier throughout the interview, and it was one of the best interviews of my life, simply because I didn't think that the situation, that I was in something that was uncomfortable. I decided that whatever was uncomfortable was inside of me, and it was a really, really easy shift for me. And the other person seemed to notice it as well, because again, there is no difference, there is no separation. So even though that they're meeting you and that they're in a position of what you would call, a higher power or whatever, you're the one judging you, they're still a human. So at the end of the day, all that's left between you and them is this idea of ego mind, and that's not really there so much. So you don't really have to worry about that at all, which was the first point. So if you can just put yourself into an idea that it's not really happening to you, you're happening to it, which is a great metaphor for life, then things start to flow a little bit more easier. Number 3 was that I put down, know that you're supported, because you are. And even if you don't necessarily believe that you're a soul, or that you're part of this higher collective of energy, for example, like maybe you just believe that you're one of God's children, or if you're sort of a skeptic to the whole thing, if you believe in yourself, and where this comes down from is if you do believe that there is something within you that can get you to the point that you need to be, then you should hold on to that, whatever that idea is for you. Because you'll notice that if you can find one thing about yourself that has always gotten you to where you need to go, then no matter what circumstance happens to you in life, you can actually get through it again. Even though we might hate our circumstances in life, or we might look at ourselves and think a bunch of negative things, no matter what we think about ourselves or the world in general, we still are here. We got it. Everything we've done has led up to this exact moment, has led up to the moment where you need that confidence, or you don't have confidence, or whoever you are in the moment, that person, that individual that you are. It's all led up to that moment. So you've made it. So you've been supported the entire time. So you don't even need this idea that there's anything else other than you to know that you're supported. But my own personal beliefs and the things that I've experienced through my spiritual awakening is that there are things out there. There is a larger presence, a universal collective, and angels and stuff like that do support you. And 100% when I was in that interview, again, before I went in, I asked that the angels support me and take away the nervousness that I had. And instantly, it went away. It was, not instantly, but within like 2 or 3 minutes, it was gone. And it was an interview for a position I've never done before, and one that's sort of based on physical appearance. And I was definitely not, at least in my mind, ready for it, but all I had to do was ask, and I was completely supported. And even if that's a placebo effect, if you want to argue that side of it, it worked. It completely worked. And it always will, because it always has. And even without the idea of the angels, the fact that I did it, or you can call them spirit guides if you want, but the fact that I did it proves to me that I have the potential and the power to keep doing things like that, that I have the confidence within me to keep going. So, number 4, that was the only time I held up fingers, apparently, is stop giving a shit. Indifference works. And it really, really does. Because when you stop giving a shit about all the details and how everything's supposed to play out, things work out a lot more easier. They work out a lot more easier than you would think that they would. There are plenty of times in life where I've been so super stressed about something, and it started to get to the point where I was like thinking, why am I so stressed? Like none of this shit even, matters, because we could all be dead in an instant, and then that's it, right? And all that shyness and all the problems that I had with confidence, they were all just in my head the entire time. I'm dead. Life didn't care that I was shy. And that's a sort of brutal truth, but if you kind of flip that and start to think, well, it's not really anything else that's the problem. It's sort of just my way of looking at it. And when you just release yourself from the stress, when you just go, you know what, whatever happens, then it happens anyway. And what is the worst that can happen? Because if the worst that can happen is that you die and you don't experience whatever you're experiencing anymore, then you don't have to worry about it. And it's, maybe morbid, but it's a great way of releasing yourself and going, it's not that big of a deal. None of it is really that big of a deal. You don't have to care at all about anything. That's your choice. There's actually a great Netflix show that I've just started watching and finished in a single sitting, because that's how I roll, called Afterlife, starring Ricky Gervais. And it's basically about a guy whose wife dies, and he just stops giving a shit about everything. And in doing so, is like, nobody does anything to him. He, everybody else, annoyed by him or whatever, but the point is that he just stops giving a shit, because he figured, oh, well, I can always kill myself and it doesn't matter. And it's a dark comedy, so, don't apply every lesson to it, but the idea is that when you stop caring just about, all those little details and how things are supposed to be, nothing really bad that you think is going to happen happens. It's completely irrelevant. Now, number 5, because people are getting close and I don't want to do this in front of random people, is don't take things so seriously, or yourself, which is, again, is sort of like number 4. When you have this idea that that you need to be serious, or that something so important is going on, um, you start to create your own anxiety, and you don't need to do that, because whatever is happening, it's not as big of a deal as you think. And I'll give you a great example. When I was younger, I worked at this pizza place, and I was fired. Um, Even though I never even gave a crap about the job when I was working it, not even that I was a bad worker, but I took the job for granted. When I was fired, it devastated me because I identified with it. I thought, well, this job is me. I need a job. This is how it is. Blah blah blah. All those things that the ego likes to pretend that you actually need to survive or have any sort of worth whatsoever. But the truth is, you don't. And I realized this soon after, because 2 or 3 months later, I got another job, and things went on and moved on. And so whenever you feel like that, you feel nervous and you don't have that confidence, when you start to realize that 2 or 3 months, whatever it is that you're shy about right now, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, at all. Whatever, and even the nervousness that you have, that's not even happening right now in the moment. That's something that you're bringing with you. That's like something inside your backpack that you're carrying on your back, obviously, backpack. But you don't need it anymore, and you can throw it out. And the only thing that stops us from doing it is that we think that we need it. Like if you're carrying an empty water bottle, and for the sake of the metaphor, and you can actually throw that away, but you don't think that you can. But you totally can. You don't need it. Whatever's bothering you, you're allowed to throw it away, because it's not going to serve you right now, and because in 3 months it won't matter. So if you just stop taking yourself a little bit, seriously, and start to be a little bit more light, watch some stand-up comedy or whatever it is that makes you laugh, you start to realize that there is nothing really that big of a deal that's going to happen, either to you or in any sort of way possible. So if you just follow those sort of tips and just stop focusing so much on what you might be perceived as, and focus more on what you would like to accomplish, you start to see that all the shyness and the confidence that you seem that you don't think that you have is actually part of your character, and that the only reason at all why you're not naturally confident is so that you can learn to be confident, because there is no greater feeling than actually learning to be confident. And that's the only reason why you ever signed up to have these sort of specific problems in your life. There's lots of people, you might look at them and go, well, how come so and so is confident? How they look like this, or they think like this, or this person's successful and I'm not, and all these comparisons that we have to people. But they have their own issues and things that they weren't given in life, specifically to make up for the things that they were given, because the entire point of not having that quality naturally that you want to have is so that you can build it. In the same way that people who are born poor might become successful because they're motivated. And that's all you really need is that belief in yourself. So, again, getting rid of that separation is the first thing that will really get you on that path, because people aren't that, everybody shits, basically. Whoever you're afraid of or whatever is happening, they've all shit themselves drunk at some party. And even if they haven't, who cares? You can pretend that they did, because they're never going to tell you that anyway, right? So stop taking everything a little bit, seriously. Relax a little bit more. Go out into nature. Get bit by thousands of bugs to shoot a subpar video. And wear hats on your head that don't fit properly. Alright, so that was the video. I hope you guys liked it. And I'm going to go spray a bunch of bug repellent all over my body. Thank you.